If you're not radical jihadists, they want to be done.
Exterminated.
And Israel's the appetizer.
You know, I've always not pronounced the T, the last T in your name, but it's you got to pronounce the T, right?
Yes.
That's not right. That's not normal.
The T, well, because I don't know why sometimes it's a good T, Rapaport.
You say the T. Usually it's Rapaport.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm not French.
No, you're actually, it's a good point. You're definitely not French.
I'm not French.
I was trying to remember the first time I met you. I might have been a little intimidated because it was a celebrity all-star game, NBA all-star game.
Was it the NBA all-star game where I won MVP? No, that was the late, great Stuart Scott handed me the MVP trophy that I still have proudly in my home.
Yes. That was very appropriate that it was Stuart. He's one of my best friends, the person I miss the most for sure. During all my years at ESPN, just the best, best, best.
Yes.
I believe I was the next year at the Garden.
Yes.
And Kevin Hart, of course, I had to give the trophy to Kevin Hart.
Yes.
And I'm like, let me take my heels off. Let me. and
he won like 3 or 4 trophies in a row.
Yes, that's wrong though. I feel like that was rigged.
It was, well, I mean, you know, are you saying the Celebrity All-Star Game is rigged? Are you saying that it's not like, are you saying it's not a real basketball game? You saying it's
maybe. The trash talk though is incredible.
So much. You know, I tore my meniscus in that game.
Which one?
At the Garden.
The Garden one?
No, that was, I don't know, that was my last game at the Garden because I wanted to win that MVP. I'm telling you something. I wanted to win the MVP at the Garden, announce my retirement.
That's right.
And it was like an unfulfilling celebrity all-star game for me because I didn't get the ball as much as I wanted to. None of them pass.
Who was your coach?
Well, Carmelo was assistant coach. Like I can't remember. It didn't matter who the coach was. It was no one passes. And I don't know why I thought like, oh, we're gonna play team ball, and it didn't work out the way I wanted to. The whole thing was in the Garden, my home turf, and it was a disappointing way to end my
career.
Yeah, my celebrity all-star game career.
How many did you play in?
Numerous, and it was I would be so charged up with excitement, so amped up with excitement. I remember being in the locker room one time, and I can't remember which one it was, and Magic Johnson was in there with Dr. J, and I was just like, what's going on? And then people are like, well, you seem nervous. I'm like, I'm freaking out. Like, I am freaking out. Of course I'm nervous. So I had so much. Listen, I didn't win as many MVPs as I wanted to, but I certainly...
2?
1.
Oh, just 1.
Just
I'm
1.
Sorry.
I know, it's embarrassing that I only won 1. But I definitely had the most fun because I was living out my hoop dreams.
Totally.
Like seriously living out my hoop dreams. Like I was like having like, I would be like elated. I had so much fun doing those.
Well, how could you not be nervous when you are a basketball guy, like you've been forever, and to be around those people in the locker room? What were they like, giving you motivational talks?
No, to them it's like, you know, what am I doing here? Like, you know, Chris Mullin, and one year it was like, you know, Scottie Pippen, and they're just, to them, this is like not even like a day in the park. It's like, you know, it's like almost like charity, like for like lunatics like myself.
Yes.
But I had a ball doing those. I had so much.
Was Bieber on one of those teams?
He won the MVP 1 year. And let me tell you something, this was young Bieber. This is Bangs Bieber.
Yes.
And he was quicker than you think. Like a little Canadian jackrabbit.
Yeah.
Like a little, and I'll tell you something, this is like he was a teenager. And the star power, like when he left the arena, like everybody left the arena.
Stupid.
When he came back in the arena, like he was so, like.
This was like 10 years ago.
Yeah, he was a kid. He was a kid.
Right.
And I had a ball.
I wonder how his moves are now that he's not a kid.
He's like one of these people who could he ain't that old.
Well, but he's little. It's different when you're little.
Yeah, you see him like, you'll see videos of him like skateboarding, playing lacrosse. He like plays he's like he's a jack of all trades.
No, he is.
I root for Bieber. He's always been cool.
He's super talented. Yeah. And the fact that he is, you know, in the music world, but still like all in on basketball. Usually they don't translate almost. It's like a completely different culture, but he was in it.
But I mean, you know, those celebrity games, not to go down the celebrity game, it is a sort of, you know, sort of how the things all sort of, you know, intertwined. And I had a ball at those.
So good. Well, I was always impressed watching
Thank you.
I'm like, oh, wow. And then you were taller in person than I thought.
Meant nothing to my MVP stat. Meant nothing to my game. Taller and then slower. Like I've seen slow, but this is a whole other different. This is a different level of slow.
That was a decade ago. So now, do you still play pickup?
I don't play because of my aforementioned torn meniscus and broken toe. Because that was at the Bieber game. I think I broke my toe. So when you're getting injured like this at Celebrity All-Star,
celebrity game, call it a career, hang it up.
Yeah, I should have never stopped because I love basketball.
Well, that's the thing, and it does keep you young.
Yes.
I mean, you can play in like a senior league.
Yeah, I'm not that old yet. Like I'm in between. Like I would knock those dudes down, but like, I'm not. No, but I miss basketball. But I love basketball.
Yeah.
Do you miss like sports? Do you still love sports? Because you obviously had a love for sports. Like, has it changed since?
It's evolved for sure. I love it because my love for it goes back to my original love, which was as a 11-year-old kid, when I told my mom and dad that I wanted to be a sportscaster and that I wanted to be on ESPN.
That's cool.
Literally, that I wanted to host SportsCenter.
What was on SportsCenter that made you go, I want to do? Was there even like a woman on there?
No. That's the thing.
Was there even a black woman?
No, hell
Jane
no.
Kennedy, right? Was it like was it Jane? She was on. She did some.
She was CBS or something, and then Gail Gardner, who did NFL. I want to say that might have been CBS. I don't know because
that's cool though.
Especially seeing nobody who looked like me and no women, and in the '80s, you know what I mean? Like
that's far-fetched.
It is very far-fetched, which is why. And I was really shy, like a weirdo shy. So my parents are like, "Huh, you want to be on TV talking about sports? That means you're gonna have to like talk, use your words,
right."
So it's the whole thing. But basically, because this is not about me today, it was literally. I'm an Army kid. I'm an Army brat. I lived all over the world with my dad's military career, and so moving around, like you have to learn to adjust. But what I did feel, no matter which country we lived in, sport brought people together. And so you can be like football Sunday, Giants game, 3 hours on a Sunday. Everybody gets along. Everybody's on the same team. You're high-fiving people that you would probably flip off on the highway, right? And I don't know, as a young kid, I felt that, and I wanted to be around that, where people like are nice.
That's cool.
And I wanted to be around greatness. And I just wanted to learn, like, how are you on the free throw line of game 7 with 4 seconds left, tie game? How do you not completely shit your pants? Like, to me, I would like vomit and you know, the game's over. I lose the game for my team. So I just had such respect for the mental toughness of the top athletes. I wanted to learn the why.
That's cool.
So I still have that. My TV is not, I watched some games, but I'll admit, this year, the first NBA game, I actually sat down to watch the whole thing. Game 7, Pacers-Knicks. Because I didn't realize after 29 years, I just needed a little break.
I got you.
When all you do is obsess over statistics and numbers and all of the things, and not just for basketball, because you have to do it for football and hockey and college sports. On SportsCenter, it's all of it.
I'm sure.
So,
just to give you a Game 7, Knicks-Pacers, I was at that game, and it was disgusting. The memories and the PTSD, the Reggie Miller PTSD, and being at that game, and I should have stayed at home and sitting through that disgusting game and watching my Knicks fall apart, and all I'm thinking about is Reggie Miller and those stupid sunglasses.
8 seconds.
I can't. He's the one person out of all the athletes. When I like my Tom Brady hate. I went through hate of Michael Jordan. There's been, I don't even like baseball, but, anything to do with the Red Sox. But when it comes to him, I can't stand him. He's great as a broadcaster. I know it's church and state. I know he's not thinking about me. But, like, when I realized how nuts I was when I was watching The Last Dance, and I was like, I can't stand him. I can't stand with him. And to go to that Game 7, and I know, like, he hasn't played in 30 years. It doesn't matter. It was brutal to sit there, especially that we fell apart and everybody's getting injured. Anyway, I know we didn't come here to talk.
No. The reason why I'm giggling is that I so wanted to talk about your Knicks. And before we go into the Knicks of today and other things, the Pacers, Reggie Miller's Pacers, it's the first NBA team I covered. And so I was in Indiana at that time during that magical game where Reggie Miller hit 3 threes and was at 8.9 seconds. And I cried happy tears while you were crying a different guy. Like, Michael, that was...
You were at those games, covering those games. Courtside?
Well, that's not like 95.
90, it's all blur to me.
I'm so sorry.
I don't know all the, like...
I was graduating from college, I think 95 is when I graduated. So it was right around then. And I covered them starting in 97. So a little bit after, but...
It's the remnants of it.
No, I'm going to remind you of all of it. Like, that series against you and Spike being obnoxious on the sideline.
He did it. He
deserves it.
He pushed Reggie Miller to the Hall of Fame.
Correct.
Because Reggie was a good player, but after Reggie was I don't know if he was an all-star or not. Not to say that he wasn't, he wasn't just like some Joe Schmo. I followed him at UCLA, blah, 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 blah. But those games pushed him to a different level of greatness.
Yep.
And it wasn't just
to
the
be
Knicks.
able to do that
in
clutch with not just any fans, Knicks fans.
In the 90s.
At the Garden.
Yeah.
A whole different era with Patrick and Larry Johnson. I mean, that was my favorite era of basketball.
Yeah.
And like the bad boy Pistons.
Yeah.
And they let you freaking duke it out under the bucket. They didn't is that right? And no one was going on banana boats together in the offseason either. Yeah. But that whole series, that whole era is because I grew up as a football kid. And so that's what cemented my love of basketball.
That's cool.
Was that magic. And again, going back to like wanting to learn about how people are great, for Reggie to do that there, and I'm sorry that all that came back to you in 2024.
It was sick. It was horrible to be at that game. There's nothing like a quiet Madison Square Garden. There is nothing like here in the Madison Square Garden because we were hyped and we got silent towards the end of the first quarter, and it was bad.
I remember I'm sorry, I was laughing because of the silence, and it took me back to 1994 or 5. But like, don't you think? What do you think of this era versus now?
I mean, as far as the NBA, I think the talent is great. The games are still the games at the end of the day. Obviously, the style of basketball has changed tremendously because there really wouldn't be a place for the style of centers, the Patrick Ewings, the Davis boys. I mean, Rick Smits was kind of ahead of his time, but the style of play has changed, and I get frustrated. The skills are great. I get frustrated with sometimes. I feel like when you've known each other your whole life, when you've played since you're 10, on AAU teams and travel teams, there's that familiarity.
Yeah.
Whereas Doc and Larry Bird, Doc and Magic and all these guys, they met on the court.
Right.
So it's not. So I feel like that gets in the way. But not that it's a MMA fight that they should be beating each other up. But I feel like the kissing and hugging. Like why are you kissing? You just kissed and hugged before the game, and after is it for the show? Like, so I mean, I still love it, and I'm always gonna love basketball, and I think, sports in general, like I still get that thrill of victory, agony of defeat. And even though the Knicks lost, I loved, going through that and investing in that, especially in the playoffs, because this season in particular for the NBA and the NFL, because of everything that was going on post-October 7th, it was really hard for me to enjoy the mundane. Extremely hard. Sports, fantasy football, NBA playoffs, my reality TV shows, which I love. It was really, really, really hard for me to enjoy the mundane. And I had made a choice that, I believe it was a Sunday. Yeah, it was a Sunday to go to that Game 7 because it was like months and months and months of just, not being able to, worry about anything other than what was going on in Israel. So that was a good release. So like, even though your team loses, there's something fun about that, because I don't take it that seriously. Like, I take it seriously, but at the end of the day, it's like it's sports. It's like a childlike thing. So Reggie Miller, of course, I respect him, love him, and all that stuff. But it's like it's like Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes.
Sports fans, it should be like Dungeons and Dragons, and it shouldn't be anymore. We should love it when we win, hate it when we lose. We shouldn't be getting into arguments with people in parking lots and fighting. That stuff to me is insane. It's insane to me when it goes to that level.
But look,
it's like your
look what
team.
it's stupid.
Crazy.
And it's actually, I mean, we've seen terrible things happen in parking lots and, you know, out in California.
And people cursing each other's games. I'm like, come on,
Why are
man.
we fighting? And then, like, in the
You
stands,
had nothing to do with any of
reaching
this.
over little kids to punch someone out.
Yeah.
But I love that for that moment, you were able to use basketball as a break from such a terrible tragedy of what happened on October 7th. And that was a decision to say, okay, like, when it starts to affect your mental health. So do you remember being really engaged in that game?
Yes. I was able to enjoy the game. And it was the Garden, you know, and I wasn't in my customary courtside seats. We were like, you know, in the civilian seats. So it was fun. It was
in the civilian?
In the civilian seat, because I don't want to go down like my courtside seats they've been taken away from me, Sage. Because you know, of the owner, and I've said things about the ownership of the Knicks, not the management. They've done a great job of rehabilitating the team and the Jalen Brunson, but I just can't rock with Dolan. But so you know, once you speak out about Dolan, your courtside seats are.
So was there an
official?
Well, yeah,
you don't get a letter.
Yeah, it's just all of a sudden.
Just like your texts don't get. Actually, I'll just keep it at that. I didn't get a letter, but I was made aware of it.
Is there any way that the relationship can be repaired?
Listen, Dolan, you want to win the championship. Okay, all the celebrities are there. I mean, we came close. We got all the pieces. I'm just saying, the one thing that's not rehabilitated.
What do you mean you came close? What do you mean you came close?
I mean, we're getting close. We're sniffing.
I mean, it's all relative.
It's all relative. We're not getting close. I'm saying we're getting close to having to have that moment. And I'm just saying, you know, I'm willing to let bygones be bygones. You know. It was tough for me. It was tough.
I feel like you have the right coach. I like Thibodeau.
I like Thibodeau. I like Jalen and the Villanova Wildcat Crews. I think he's a great New York star.
Yes.
Understated.
He wants it, too.
Wants it. Incredible story that his father played in the NBA, played for the Knicks during those times. Never got off the bench. I said to Rick Brunson when I saw him, I said, I don't know where he learned to play from because it wasn't from your bench riding ass. But you know, I love the Knicks, and hopefully, you know, hopefully we sign up. We got a bunch of good signs in the offseason and contracts. Hopefully we get a good medical staff to keep us healthy.
Yes.
See how creative we.
You're nuts.
Right.
1973?
1973.
I was born in 1972, Michael.
I was born in 1970. I didn't see it. It's that, you know, if you go to the Garden, the banner, they're falling apart.
I was gonna say they're like crusty.
Yeah, they're like hanging together. So we need a championship.
Okay, and it would be good for the sport, right? I mean, and by the way, do you know that I've never been to a Knicks game?
You never been to the Garden?
The only time I've been to the Garden is that All-Star game in 2015. And I hosted the Celebrity All-Star game, like the pregame and the halftime.
That's crazy.
I know, because for all those years, especially when I did NBA Countdown, I was always in studio. Only time in Los Angeles. Only time we go out of studio is for the conference finals and finals, and you were never there. You were never there, so we need to fix this.
That's crazy.
But as a fan, like that's actually on my bucket list to get there to watch a good basketball game.
You'll be good. You'll be able to get.
I don't know, actually.
You'll be able to get on the wood.
I actually think definitely not.
So who do you think will get courtside seats from the Knicks first? Me or you?
They'll forgive you before me.
Wow.
I really do.
All right.
Yeah, no, I don't say the right things for them, and that's okay. Honestly, it's fine.
Listen, I know Charles Oakley. It was the Charles Oakley thing where I could no longer say anything.
Yeah.
Like I had to hold. I was like, I've been keeping it PG. Listen, and I know Oak is, you know, he's not a choir boy. But you don't throw out, only the Knicks would throw out somebody that means so much to the fans.
Organization.
Like, figure out another way to deal with it.
Put your ego aside and
figure it out.
I know. And for those of you at home who are wondering about Charles Oakley and James Dolan, you have to look it up.
Everybody, yes, right.
We won't go too deep on that, but.
That's when I went nuts. That's when I went on a show the next morning, and I knew tickets were done. And I went off. I was like, this is it.
But I bet you had a lot of fans who were like, thank you.
Of course. But
yes.
whatever. It doesn't matter.
It's fine.
It's fine.
But I do think of you every year, and now I'm like, okay, because now I know you were exactly 3 years old the last time this happened. I would love to witness it.
Oh, there's so many New Yorkers that would love to witness it.
Look, I just got him in a really bad mood.
Yes, I didn't even know you were gonna throw. I'm like, you got me in like a Reggie Miller, like code, like
I know,
code blue.
That was one of the best sports moments of my life. The first thing, and I'm so glad you brought up October 7th in that context, I guess.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, anyone who follows you knows how passionate you have been since October 7th to make sure that we recognize people who are still there.
Yes.
People who are gone. And what is it that made you, from here in New York, say, no, this is going to be my thing. This isn't going to be, my mission is to not let anyone forget about the atrocities that happened on that day?
Well, I never said this is going to be my thing. You know, the way it played out and the response and the sort of, you know, F the Jews of it all and kill the Jews of it all. And that really sort of being like being made clear to me. And the celebration, the 8th, in New York City, not too far from where we're shooting this, the elation of those videos, the celebratory nature of that, and then the reaction, it just, something triggered in me, and it was a primal thing. It was almost like a fight or flight kind of thing. And I've ranted and talked and supported so many different things on social media in the last, I don't know, in 9 years, 8 years, when it became sort of like a, you know, like Instagram and the, you know, sort of selfie videos, just, you know, and you know, and I've never had an attachment, to be totally honest, to Israel, but I've always had I've always had attachment to being Jewish. Like, I'm Jewish, but I would be what you would call a bagel, cream cheese, and lox Jew, and like sort of traditional New York City, you know, Jew. But when it became like, can I curse?
Yeah.
Okay. When it became like, fuck the Jews, we're gonna kill the fucking Jews, and fuck Israel and anything to do with Israel, and yay, this happened. Like, it was like a visceral sort of primal response. And, you know, I started, you know, the 9th, I started ranting, which was Monday, and talking, and then, you know, and because of that, I got asked to show up. There was a rally in DC. I think this was like, I can't even remember how many days. It was in November, so it must have been 30-something days into it. And at first I wasn't gonna go there because it was like, it was all politicians. The original docket, like I saw, was like politicians. It was like Biden and this one, and then I was like, what the hell am I doing here? Like, what is this? This is like, I have no place in this. And then that changed, and I went down there with my wife and our friend, and they were like, oh, I thought you weren't coming, like the people that were organizing. I was like, no, I'm just coming. They were, you don't want to talk, and whatever. And then I wound up speaking that day because the energy that was being articulated wasn't what was important to me, which was, there is not going to be a ceasefire until the hostages are returned. The hostages need to be returned, and then there's a ceasefire. Like, I don't understand how this is getting screwed around. Like,
yeah.
See, like, if there's a ceasefire, like, what about these people? What about, and this is before the initial hostage release, what about these people? What about these American citizens? What about these people from, at that point, it was like 33 countries. Like, what's going on here? And when I was leaving there and realizing that there had been nobody articulating themselves in this thing that I know other people felt, and there was nobody from my business, there was nobody from show business, there was, you know, there were no males, you know, and there's so many Jewish actors, Jewish performers, that they didn't have to go up there and be even politically charged. They could have just went up there and be like, I'm here, you know, I'm gonna sing you a song, or I'm here. It didn't have to be as bombastic, but the silence was concerning to me. And that was however many days when that DC rally, and here we are now, we're in the 10th month of this. And it's been you know, and I've been to Israel 4 times since, and, wow, you know, and it's been a very, very, I I don't know if it's life-changing, but it's been extremely impactful, you know, for a lot of you know, disturbing reasons and a lot of good reasons. But it's been you know, it's been a journey, you know, that I've had, but it was not conscious and it was not premeditated or planned, and you know, and it just sort of happened. It just sort of happened, and here we are. You know,
but you could have done what so many others you just said in the industry, and actors, and I mean executives who have big platforms.
Yeah.
There's been so much silence, right? I mean, here and there, but so
no, it's been a lot of silence. It's been embarrassing amount of silence
from people who also wear the star, which is the first thing I noticed when you walked in today.
I got a big one on today. Thank you.
It's beautiful, absolutely, right?
Yeah.
And so that has bothered me as a Catholic, as a non-Jew, just going, wait a minute. Have you thought at some point, like, gosh, maybe this is too much, or you're like, screw it, I'm all in on this? Because
I have thought that, because it's been made, I get asked that a lot.
Really?
I didn't think it until I got asked it. You know, people are fascinated by that aspect, you know.
Well, let me just say this. I maybe should have said, I love it. And I'm so grateful for you, because it's the right freaking thing.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
And what it shows me is the lack of courage, frankly.
Yeah.
It shouldn't even take courage. This is just right and wrong, right? But
yeah,
the lack of courage by the majority of people that actually makes me mad.
It makes me mad. It makes me mad across the board for a number of reasons. Because let's just say show business, we speak out about everything.
Yeah.
It could be climate change. It could be women's rights. It could be abortion rights.
It could be about race, black people,
LGBTQ,
stuff that doesn't even affect
black people. It's across. You know, Marlon Brando did that. You know, speech when he won the Oscar. I believe it was for The Godfather, where he sent up the Native American. We say stuff about everything, and a lot of times at the award show, you're like, just shut up and all right, we got it. Get out of here. You know, it could be penguins dying, you know, pigeons, you know, everything. We talk about everything. To see this award season, nobody say anything, not a peep. And the only person was that director of that movie, who was Jewish, who refuted his Judaism. And to see the same people applaud that this Jewish guy's refuting his Judaism in front of the entire world, I was embarrassed. Because number one, this is what I do to make a living. Like, this is my life. Like, I'm an actor. Like, I'm gonna do other things. I'm a stand-up comedian. But I lead with I'm an actor. All those things are spawned from being an actor.
Yeah.
You know, I'm at the Celebrity All-Star Game as an actor.
Yes.
You know, so I was like, what is going? I mean, at this point, this was like January. So I'd already, but I remember waking up after one of those award shows feeling very empty. Like, I was like, oh shit. Like, what is this? Like, they're not, like, what is going on here? And you know, to go into sports, you know, I watched, and I've enjoyed it, although I still have fun, you know, making fun of it, although I think they figured it out. But I watched a very, very competitive WNBA All-Star game the other day, and it was a great game, and I'm happy for the sport. I'm happy for young girls. I'm happy for women's sports. And I was watching Brittany Griner, who was every day on ESPN, there'd be at least one person, free BG, free BG, free BG. And I'm watching all these women, and not one of them has said throughout this entire WNBA season or before, or ESPN or any of the sports people, then there's a lot of, not one of them has said something just about these female hostages.
Yep.
And Brittany Griner,
happened?
I ranted and screamed for her. Listen, she screwed up. She made a mistake. But this was like, obviously, this was some political thing they were doing with her. She's in prison. You know, she fucked up. But you know, and people so I was like, come on, man. Now one of you are gonna say shit, and then Megan Rapinoe and Sue Bird, who's Jewish, I'm like, you're not gonna say shit.
Nothing.
You guys say shit about everything.
Yep.
You guys say shit about everything. And I backed you up. You're not saying anything about anything. Don't say shit about anything going forward. If you can't even say, you could say free the hostages and you support this. You could do any kind of both. But to act like it's not happening, and it really bothers me, because I know at the drop of the dime, if something took a turn, you know, all the sports, all the athletes, all the big mouths, all the, standing on this, standing on that, and all the women, it would be, they'll fall in line for one thing, but to not say anything about it, it was concerning. It is concerning.
Yeah.
It is concerning. And it's concerning, and it was upsetting and all that stuff. But just the one thing about, my sort of voice in this, I did not think, nor do I consider myself any sort of activist, nor do I consider myself brave or anything like that. I just was like, I've talked about all the things that I just mentioned and way more. People have seen it, and I just, the silence is, it's madly deafening.
It's deafening.
Yeah.
Have you ever had an opportunity to talk to those people that you know who have been silent and ask them why?
I haven't had any opportunity to, I don't know them like that, and to be honest with you, at this many days in, at this much time in, if you haven't said anything,
No. Well, it was easy to say something back in November, by the way, October and November. It was easy. It was so fresh. It was like, okay, there's a massacre and there's rapes going on, like all of the things. And to me, I just can't quite figure out the why.
It's anti-Jewishness. That's it.
No, but you're talking about Sue Bird, who's Jewish, who has a platform. Like, there's a lot of people like that who, listen, I have other issues with the Megan Rapinoe, Sue Birds of the world, and so I guess I'm not shocked because of how they pick and choose what they, believe is worth standing up for, and actually not standing up for women in many ways, you know what I mean? And just being terribly inconsistent is the nicest way I can put it there. So some people don't surprise me. Others do, and especially in your industry, where there's so many Jewish people, and it just it speaks to a lot of things. Lack of courage. It shouldn't take courage to do this, but apparently, and fear of whatever comes with that by standing up for something that hasn't already been approved. All the LGBT, the rainbow flags. That's great. Go for all that. But with this, which to me, male, female, gay, straight, there were so many different kinds of diverse people who didn't come home that day. And by the way, both can exist, right? Okay, there's a conflict and Palestine, and there's a lot of innocence on both sides.
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean that you can't condemn the most obvious thing, and that's where I struggle. GoodRanchers.com is the place to get 100% American meat for your summertime needs. So whether you're hosting a backyard barbecue, a pool party, a beach bonfire, whatever it is, Good Ranchers has you covered. In fact, right now you can save on Good Ranchers meat like never before. Subscribe to any Good Ranchers box now and get $100 off plus free smoked brats for an entire year. Yeah, it's more than just a great deal. It's a chance to celebrate America by supporting American family farms and enjoying the highest quality American meat. All you have to do is go to GoodRanchers.com and subscribe to any of their custom curated boxes filled with 100% American beef, chicken, pork, or wild-caught seafood. Use my code SAGE at checkout to get $100 off and free smoked brats for a year. If you need any other reason to support Good Ranchers, they're not only amazing partners of my show, they also support the paralyzed veterans of America, too. And as an Army brat, I'm all about that. Every order saves American farms and supports American veterans. Change the way you buy meat today at GoodRanchers.com with my code SAGE to claim your $100 off, plus your free brats for a year. GoodRanchers.com, American meat delivered.
We're in such a crazy time, with the world socially, politically. Everything is it's we're finished recording and you go outside, what happened?
You're missing stuff right now. Yeah.
It's crazy.
But watching from a distance and to see what was happening on the campus at Columbia.
Pathetic.
What is that? It was another level and completely shutting down the campus. At the end of the day, okay, stand up for this. We want, great. Go to class.
No Zionists allowed.
Let others go to class. Let's live
It wouldn't
here.
be allowed. You wouldn't be able to say no short people, no fat people, no tall people, no blonde-headed people, no red-headed people, people with freckles. You wouldn't be able to say it about any, let alone black, LGBTQ, or anything else other than Jews. And the weaponizing of this term Zionism and Zionist, it's cut the shit. You're talking about Jews, period. And, we're in a crazy way, like somehow, some way, like the Jews are the last man standing where these things are allowed, you're allowed to do this. And like I said, this Zionism, it sounds like it's an exotic, sort of mindset of polluted, I don't know what, the simply means you believe in the right for Israel to exist, period.
Right.
And you could be pro-Palestine, you could be LGBTQ, you could think the Prime Minister Netanyahu is the biggest criminal in the world. You could think anything you want. You could be but to think that Israel doesn't have a right to exist, then you're sick. But somehow they've made Zionism into this thing, like it's like you're like some kind of cancer, and it's just, it's like they, and that's why this stuff, the fake news and the this genocide and apartheid, and occupation and all these things. Well, you're literally dehumanizing Jews and you're dehumanizing Israelis. And so if you believe in and you support genocide and apartheid and occupation, well then anything, it's like almost like that's a rapist on the street. It's literally like that's a rapist. Get him. That's what you're getting into, that kind of land when you're saying these kinds of things. And that's the thing for the campuses and younger people. Like, I'm good with my place as a Jewish man, but for younger people, like, it's evolving to a point where like they're trying to make us outliers and like, outcasts, and what it means to be Jewish is changing in real time. And what it means to, you're gonna almost have to explain yourself to people, like, oh, you're Jewish. Well, what kind?
Oh, yeah.
What kind?
Yeah.
What kind are you? And that's not cool. And that's all that rhetoric does. It makes it seem like, like you have to explain it. And, that's why, it's important that, people arm themselves with history and facts and knowledge, and particularly Jews. So when that question is asked and it's raised, you could be like, I'm this kind. You have a problem with it? It's not like literally, but like, this is what's the facts.
Yeah.
So
how does this move forward? How do you kind of move forward if every hostage isn't returned? Like, how do you,
Well, whatever I'm going through is minuscule compared to, the experience of going to Israel and meeting hostage families. And, it's the size of New Jersey. It's a small place. So you talk about 6 degrees of separation or 6 degrees of, Kevin Bacon, like it's 1 degree of separation from people that have, been affected, from October 7th, or have people serving, or have lost people serving, or injured, or, people they've worked with. It's very small. And so, my sort of angst and my frustration and my concern is minuscule, compared to the real life stuff of the people that are still, heartbroken, families that are just ripped apart, families that have, literally been like the Bibas family with the 2 kids, the 2 redheaded, beautiful kids, like the mother, the father, and the 2 children. That's you've chopped that, you've cut that, and that's gone. And so much mourning. One of the things that I think about is the people, how can you properly mourn when your neighbor is still missing?
Yeah.
So I like what I'm thinking, what I'm going through, my angst, my concern, like I'm going to work. I'm not canceled.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be canceled because, I didn't do anything wrong. I know I didn't do anything wrong. Maybe maybe I'm like lying to myself, but it's like I have nothing to apologize for. And for somebody who talks as much shit as I talk, I'm used to apologizing my whole life. I've gotten in trouble my whole life, school, home, relationships. So I'm very aware of my behavior. I'm very aware of my online persona. I'm very aware of my persona right now. I'm used to apologizing. I'm used to sort of put myself in shit, not just stepping in it, like literally putting, and I'm also, okay, like sometimes you take things too far, or sometimes, in regards to social media, I've only gotten in trouble when I've written things because the context could be out of.
Yes.
Like,
versus when they hear your tone.
The tone, I've never had.
It matters.
Yeah, because you can hear the inflection.
And you can see a smile.
You can see a smile.
Like,
So you know, just in my whole, I mean, I was bad. Yeah, I'm a pot stirrer, you know, so, but in regards to, you know, my place in this, like my troubles and the ramifications of this for me is small. I'm more like the younger people and the actual people.
I just think there's a lot of people who are grateful for the stance that you've taken and for whatever reasons they have for not saying anything. And again, I do believe it's possible to not choose sides per se, but acknowledge what happened that day.
Yeah.
And that to me is really inexcusable for people to be silent. And it's funny. I think I saw, and actually, no, I know I did. I watched it a couple of times because I was surprised. It seems like that was your turning point with Joe Biden. Maybe from what I took on your social media, where you were like so disappointed that someone in such a role wouldn't condemn that, and obviously many others, but if you're the President of the United States, especially considering the relationship with Israel through the years, through many presidents, is that a fair assessment?
Yeah,
of how
yeah. You know, because I was, yes, Joe Biden at first was great on Israel, and he, you know, when he said the way he speaks, which is, you know, not a lot of words, but he said, you know, in regards to Hezbollah and all them going after, and he said no, and he like that meant a lot to Jewish people, and it was the right thing. Like, yo, he had our backs, and he was like, don't fuck around, Hezbollah, Houthis, don't fuck around, and he sent the ships in, and don't fuck around, and when it started to become, you know, good cop, bad cop, it's election season in Dearborn, Michigan, and Nevada, and all this stuff, it started to, and I'm like, yo, we can't afford this good cop, bad cop shit now. This is not the time to be good cop, bad copping. This is not the time to second guess publicly.
Yeah.
When you know, this is happening, when there's hostages, number one, when what happened is still being sorted out, and you know, the brewing of the anti-Jewishness in this country. Like this is not the time, and that's, I can't remember when, but that's when I was like, you know, I started like, you know, I started educating myself more, but also I was just like, no, this is not okay. Like, and the really learning the reality of things. It was like a lot of wake up calls, and that's when I said, you know, what I said, and then it's, you know, it's crazy because now here we are. It's like, again, you talk about things changing. It's like, and now Joe's gone, and we got the next situation.
To me, again, it was simple, and that relationship with Israel through the years, throughout all these different presidents. I mean, listen, and you can. There's some people are, you know, you're a what is the phrase when you have one issue that's your issue to vote on?
Yeah, I'm a one issue guy.
And
I vote now with my money and Israel, and not in that order. It might be Israel, my money.
Israel and your money.
I don't fuck around with the race politics, gender politics. I ain't speaking on behalf of nobody. None. Nothing, nobody. All that shit, I'm done. Dogs, cats, LGBT, I'm done. Don't squares, fucking nothing. Because the silence and the lack of support, and Israel needs to be protected, period, without question. Period, without question.
What do you say to people who are on the other side of it and are, you know, pro-Palestine and are okay with what happened?
Right? There is no pro-Palestine. There is no. There's pro-innocent people, but to say pro-Palestine the way it is now, the leaders of this place, Gaza, the leaders of Hamas, they don't give a fuck about the civilians of that place. So if you're saying pro-Palestine, you need to say, if you're saying free Palestine from Hamas. That's it. Like these are not. There's like in order to take that kind of stance, you should at least understand what and who you're thinking. And these people don't need a hug. They're not just upset. This wasn't a temper tantrum on October 7th. This wasn't just a little, you know, like a poo-poo party. This was a genocidal. When they say from the river to the sea, they want us all gone.
Yes.
There's no two-state solution. There's no negotiating. There's no nothing. They've made it clear, and they've continued to make it clear that they want Israel and the Jews and the LGBTQ and blacks and Muslims and Catholics and Protestants. If you're not radical jihadists, they want to be done.
Exterminated.
And Israel's the appetizer. The meal hasn't even been served. This is like, they might even be the appetizer. It's like a good piece of bread with some butter. And they say it over and over and over and over and over and over and over. Me, just weren't listening and thought it sounded like some crazy person on the corner. Oh, this guy's, no, this ain't a crazy person on the corner. They've been saying it. And then after they did it, they keep saying it. And they're continuing to say it. I mean, I could go on and on and on about the history and the facts and the reality, but there's nothing. It sounds sick, Sage. The greatest day in the history of Gaza was October 7th. They have not contributed anything to the world. And I know you're like, what does fucked up? They have not contributed anything to arts, science, popular culture. There's no invention because they have been obsessed for 75 years with the extermination of Israel. That's why the elation, like it was Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah.
That's why the celebration, because that was the greatest day in the history of the fucking place. In 75 years, that's their greatest accomplishment. They don't give a fuck about the citizens. There's Israel, there's bomb shelters everywhere. If we were doing this podcast, you would know, like down the hallway, there's a shelter. Outside, there's a shelter. Down the block, there's a shelter. There's no shelters in Gaza. They have tunnels that the civilians aren't allowed to go to. I mean, so it's just the reality of these people, and that from the river to the sea, and you're on a college campus from the river to the sea. Like, what are you spending? If my kid was at a college and I'm spending money to send you for however much money, and you're from the river to the sea, wrapped up like
everybody's wrapped up in hiding. Isn't that fascinating? Like it's uneducated, and again, no one will call them on it. It's absolutely anti-Jewish. And to your point, just substitute another group in there.
It wouldn't be acceptable.
Different race. It would absolutely not be acceptable. And all the professors and the presidents would have been ousted somehow for allowing it to happen. Uneducation is the biggest downfall in our society right now, because people don't take the time to learn. At least learn it and have an opinion and be able to back it up. In this case, it'd be tough to back up, but that's what I don't comprehend. And as a parent of 3 college-age kids, let me tell you, my kids weren't allowed to look at certain places to go to school. I refuse. My money's not going there. And just like you see so many of the big donors at UPenn and Harvard and many of these other places, Columbia, right, who are like, okay, now I'm done. When you kick them in the teeth with the dollars, that seems like that's the only way that some of these people get the message. You hope, but it has to continue to happen. Okay, hypothetical. Kamala Harris ends up being the next president.
I'm concerned.
What happens with this relationship?
I'm very concerned. I am extremely concerned. I'm concerned. I am concerned. I'm concerned about, I'm concerned. I'm not voting for Kamala Harris. I'm not voting for, I can't do it. I can't fucking do it. And
why?
Because I can't support a party that is about all this bullshit. And I can't support a party, a couple of weeks ago, Bibi Netanyahu, I don't care what people think of the Prime Minister of Israel. While there's 8 American hostages in Gaza, they didn't show up. Proudly, Bernie and the Burnouts, the Squad, and all these race hustling con artists, 2-bit shell game bullshit. They're they're race hustlers, and they weaponize it to a point where it's dangerous, and they didn't show up proudly to hear the Prime Minister. I don't care again what you think of him, to hear him speak while America's greatest ally, whether you like it or not. Israel's America's greatest ally. You don't show up while we're under siege from not just Hamas, these fucking gang-banging criminal Gestapo mob fucks, but all these other proxies from Iran. Like, this isn't just about Israel. Like, this is, you know, Iran, they want the whole thing. And to not show up and to not hear the man speak when there's 8 reasons are enough for me to go hear him speak.
Gosh.
And it's just crazy to me. And Sage, listen, I didn't care about any of this shit. As much as I would love to be talking to you about when Doc Rivers and the Orlando Magic and all this stuff. Like, there's so many sports things I would love to talk to you about, but like, it's just like you get a little older, you start to go, what the hell is going on here? You know?
You have to. If we don't, then shame on us for the sake of our kids and grandkids. And it sounds very cliche, but I mean it.
It's true.
And our kids are old enough to see it, to feel it, to have experienced some things, and to be watching. And I have these conversations with my kids.
Yeah.
And in order to make sure that they're educated, and then from there, okay, you make your decisions. I hope it's the right decision.
Yeah.
I hope that no matter what, you will be supportive if anyone is hurt, is ostracized, all of those things.
Yeah.
But like, we have a responsibility. And I also believe that when you have certain platforms, yes, you've worked your ass off for it. I've worked hard. Millions of people have worked hard, but especially when you have a platform, if you stay silent at the most important time, I don't know. I think it says a lot about us. And I hate to be judgy with other people, but sometimes I am. And for me, one of the issues is the LGBTQ, more so the transgender sports, and to not be able to say a woman, like, stop it. And
That's
so all
ridiculous.
these women, the Rapinos of the world,
Yeah.
who actually put me in a sentence. It was actually quite an honor. She's like, Sage Steele, Dave Chappelle, Martina Navratilova, we are inciting trans violence by what we're saying about, no, women's sports should be here and biological men should stay out of it. That incites violence. Go for it, right? So that's one of my things. And for me to stay silent on that, when I've spent a career encouraging women and women's sports and trying to increase ratings with the WNBA and college basketball, it's easier to stay silent right now for some stupid reason, for something that is science-based, not an opinion with that stuff. So my point is...
No, Sage, it's going to happen. You know, like swimming, this is not a mainstream sport. Track and field, again, you know, some people are like, I love it. It's not, it is going to happen in the next 3 to 5 years. There is going to be a trans female, formerly a man,
yes,
that is going to be competing or trying to compete in high-level women's basketball.
How about Chappelle's joke about LeBron James? And when LeBron says,
I make it all the time,
woman, right?
When Caitlin Clark was getting muscled, I said, I could get this done in a year and a half. You ain't gonna get fouled with me, with Michelle Rapaport on the bench. I'll be like Bill Laimbeer out there. I'll be knocking the shit out of him.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And I don't need a lot of minutes. I give you 8 to 12 hard minutes, and I'll bet you're right, nobody's gonna be pushing into Caitlin Clark. Sign me up.
You need to be that goon. And then if her teammates, by the way, are out there, they're kind of letting it happen. But
it fixed up now, but I've made it clear. And the offer still stands. Caitlin Clark in the Indiana Fever, you want a goon?
Yeah.
I get that surgery out there because I kind of run. I'm not going to say. I'm just saying. Like, I'm ready. Like, because I'm not saying I could start. I love the WNBA.
Yes,
the game
and the skill set is incredible.
8 to 12 minutes, I'll be on like Lonnie Shelton and Maurice Lucas. Knocking the shit. I'll be like Dennis Rodman. And it'll be like the
old school.
Yes.
Like we love.
One game. Exactly. And I'll set the tone there.
But guess what? This shouldn't be controversial.
But it's going to happen, though.
It is going to happen. And so
there's going to be a woman competing.
But all these people who, to me, you're complicit when you are silent. And it goes back to what you're saying. When you are silent about these things, especially when you see the evidence right here, and then it just empowers people, empowers the bad guys to continue to do bad things. So when you've enabled it, like Joe Biden has, why would we think Kamala Harris would do anything any differently? And so to me, it goes to not just Israel, it just goes to America's standing in general and our overall national security and just how we were, like a power. And we are there for the people who needed us, right? I mean, yes, allies. Okay, you had 4 years under Trump. What if Trump wins in November? Like, what would you expect to happen with Israel if he comes in January?
I expect him first and foremost to drain and bankrupt Iran. And hopefully, I'm not world politically, savvy or educated enough that it's not just for 4 years, that there's a way to drain them and neuter them for good, for forever, bankrupt them for good. And once that happens, things will fall in line. A woman who's a friend of mine, who I've gotten to meet, who's a great read, smart, brilliant woman named Dr. Inat Wilf. I read her books. I was asking her about Trump and Trump and Israel, and she said, I give him 100%, not a 95.
Wow.
I give not a 90, 100%, the way he was during his time for Israel. And I was wrong, because I talk shit about Jared. I was wrong, and I was the first in line talking shit about Trump. I gave him all. I was all day, every day.
Why?
Because I didn't like his mouth.
It was low-hanging fruit there
the
with
mouth.
the mouth and the mean
I didn't
tweets.
feel like it's inappropriate.
Yeah.
It's not appropriate. And I would say that to him today. If I would say it, like, yo, your mouth, man. You're the president. You're also 79. You're the president. You're 79. You just got shot in the ear. Like, get some new material. Like truly, like, bring us together. Like, shut the shit up. Like, you're the president. Be like, well, you talk. I'm not the president. So, but I don't know what I was thinking. But in regards to that's what number first and foremost is Israel, and is supporting Israel, and Iran needs to be drained forever. How, I don't know, but financially there's a way to tariff their asses so they squeeze. They have nothing, so they can't support these Hezbollah, these Houthis that could send a drone the size of a car into Tel Aviv, which is like sending it into it came off like the Hudson River.
Right.
It's crazy.
So honestly, between your two issues, Israel and your money,
yes,
and the economy, would this be the first time you vote Republican?
I'm not saying I'm going to vote Republican.
Here was your quote. Voting for Trump is on the table.
Yes.
Does that pain you to say?
Yes, it pains me. It pains me. It pains me to be wrong.
Yeah. So you think you were wrong about him?
I was wrong. I wasn't wrong about my personal feelings, and I wasn't wrong about everything. And I wasn't wrong about his behavior. I think, I'm
a lot
sure.
Of people agree with that.
I'm sure his own family are like, yo, calm down, man, stop.
They do say it to him.
I'm sure.
Yes.
But I was wrong about Israel, and I was wrong about economy stuff. I was wrong. I wasn't even wrong about Israel. I was ill-informed about how he, what he did with Iran and the importance of that, and how it was put the screws to Iran. I think, as I'm sort of going through this sort of process of understanding and learning, I feel like no matter who anybody votes for, it's never going to be exactly what you want. I don't agree with everything my wife says.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And you still love her, and you love the good, and she's working on the bad.
Yeah.
And so are you.
Oh yeah. But at the end of the day, I'm clear. I want my interest rates to be down, and I know that doesn't have anything to do. And then Israel needs to be protected more than ever now.
Yeah.
More than ever right now, because we're under siege, and the state of Israel is under siege. And the future of Israel could possibly be in jeopardy if we are not protected, and in a blunt, aggressive way. And that means Israel needs to be boom.
Oh, absolutely. But there's been no bluntness, no aggression, nothing that's been very clear as far as leadership and direction from the current administration. And I think, I personally have never felt more vulnerable as an American overall as I do now. And in the last 3.5 years since Joe Biden took office, one thing that I've been saying this for 100 years, and I don't know, I've always been interested in politics and certainly always paid attention, especially as a mother and all of those things. But the whole facts over feelings, guys.
Yeah.
And I understand the mouth. I understand some of the stuff where you're just like, dude, did you have to say that? That's not very becoming of a leader. I've thrown the morals and all that, all the feelings out the window. I'm a numbers person and a results person. And I think it's the only way, or else you'll go crazy. I think you asked a question on social media or your show. I'm not sure which one, but you know, what was it? I think I wrote it down. Yeah. Oh, can I bitch if I don't vote?
Yeah.
No.
You can't bitch.
I don't want to hear it. I got in trouble because right after 2020, when Mike Evans, that super talented Buccaneers receiver, who I actually love as a player, I heard he's a great guy, he was like kneeling, right? That first Sunday after the election, and it's like, well, Trump and da-da-da. I found out he didn't vote. I'm like, shut up.
Right.
I don't want to hear a thing because there's people, and I'm a military kid, right? And I have a grandfather who was a Buffalo soldier, like not allowed to, you know, fight for a country with white people because he was a black, like, I don't want to hear it. There's so many people who have died for us to have the right. And then you're going to, the line's long.
What if I just vote locally? What if I vote my local?
No. Okay, fine, vote locally. Tell me how that's going to help Israel.
I'm
just saying.
That's why I posed the question to the geniuses on social media.
I'm like, Michael, you are smart. You know that answer because we're better than that. And if we can't put our feelings aside from the mean tweets and mouthing off and the pompousness and all of the things, like, who cares?
I know.
Are we safer? At the end of the day, I think, like, they talk about people plugging their nose as they vote, like in 2016, Hillary or Trump. My God, fine. But I'm blown away at the number of people that I consider maybe not brilliant, some, but super smart and informed and educated who still put the facts aside because they don't like him, the person. Tell me one politician that is actually a really good person.
Oh, these people are a different level.
So get over it. And what's the best thing? And by the way, for some people, that is to vote Democrat. And Israel's not a priority for them.
I know.
It's all about abortion.
Right.
Fine. Which, by the way, Donald Trump has said we got to meet in the middle.
Yeah.
There needs to be.
Yeah.
It was never in the Constitution.
Yeah.
It should always be up to the states.
Yeah.
That's 100% how it should be. So we're not taking away a constitutional right because there was no such thing. But if you're going to have that one issue, do it. Be educated and then shut up. And then you, like, but if you're not voting,
I know. That's why I asked the questions.
Yes.
To all the smart people on social media.
Okay, let me ask you this too, as a New Yorker. How much time do you have? Do
I'm good.
I need to shut up?
No,
okay.
no, I'm good.
Because I have missed this city so much with COVID and everything. And I used to like come down and then let my kids, I'm like, okay, I'll meet you back here in 2 hours, you know? Whenever I'm here. Last night I walked from Columbus Circle, just went down there for dinner and just to walk around. I always say I'm gonna go shopping and I never buy anything because I'm like cheap. And so, but I always want to walk and I'm up here like off of 36th. And so it's a nice hike there and back. I'm blown away. Like you can watch the news reports and be like, whatever, New York's not that bad. There's a huge difference on these streets.
Do you feel that?
I do. And it's the first time where I have like consciously not just had my purse over my shoulder, it's across my body, so you're gonna have to take all of me if you're gonna take it. Like I had 2 guys like in my face saying stuff. And if I didn't give them the change that I had, what they said to me, I can't repeat right now. And just feeling as a woman.
Yeah.
And I've never felt unsafe at night in New York. And it's throughout many parts of the city.
In this neighborhood here?
Yes. And so,
I'll tell you.
And you had Eric Adams on recently, and I have so many issues with him.
Yeah.
And I'm bummed because it took a long time for Giuliani to clean this place up, and what a difference it was. And now, you know what? My kids, and they're 22, 20, they don't even want to come here now, Michael.
Really?
It has changed.
You know, this is what I'll say about New York. New York has always been flawed, okay? My wife has had stuff like that. I think the neighborhood where we're recording, in particular, is bad. And he knows that. Eric Adams knows that. Everybody in the city knows that. The sort of old Times Square, Union, Grand Central Station, it's bad. And it became more apparent to me when a friend of mine who's a legitimate tough guy says he takes the train in and he was walking up, I think 41st between 8th and 9th or 9th, 8th and 7th. And he's a tough guy. And he was like, yo, he was uncomfortable.
Yep.
And I was like, really? And I said, I haven't been over there. He goes, I'm telling you, it's fucked up. And he was kind of shook by it. outside of this area that we're talking about, me personally, what I don't think it's any worse than it's been for New York, but I think this West Side, 7th Avenue, 8th Avenue, by the Garden, it's fucked up. And my wife has had, she's had some things too. Yeah, she said.
I'm sorry to hear that, you know, but this is where I end up hanging out because of work things.
Yeah, no, I get it.
And so I feel the difference right here.
I get it.
I still did it. Don't tell my mother. Like, I still did it because I love New York and I love that feeling and I love to hear and smell and see all of it. But it is different.
And you can't call it. I said to Eric Adams, I said, I said, when you can beat up a cop and you ain't from this country, or you are from this country, you could be from Manhattan. When you could put your hands on a cop and then get out of jail the next day and get in front of the cameras, like Tupac when he got it, like I'm like, you can't think this is the greatest city in the world. I am proud to be from New York. And I was asking about that, and he was like, you know, in the bail reform,
nope.
Yo, you can't be able to do that. You shouldn't be able, if you breathe on a cop wrong, forget what you think about the cops, whatever. If you beat up a cop, you should be in jail until further notice.
Exactly. And that's why I've always loved the subway. I'm not going on the subway now. My daughter's friend witnessed the other day there was a push and then there's another one witnessed it like a suicide. Like, it's insane. Yeah. And so all of a sudden I'm like, no, I'm out. And I've never felt that way. Yeah. Here's the thing. This is completely self-inflicted.
Yeah, I totally agree. They did it to themselves.
Right. And then you add, so the cop stuff, all that, but then you add all of the illegals. And this is what happens when your little perch, Eric Adams and everybody else, you're bitching at Texas and Arizona for how they're handling, let's just not call them migrants, illegals. Yeah. And then it's like, okay, the governor says, fine, you want some of that? Come get it. And now you're going to complain. But now you're taking taxpayer money. Your taxes, aren't they high enough here? And you're handing them free money. And you're shutting down schools. And I have a really good friend up on the Upper West Side, beautiful neighborhood. And they had the soccer season completely canceled because there's tents all over the soccer fields. Like this, they have allowed the greatest city to not deserve that title anymore. So how do you fix it? Because if you have a mayor and a government that they're apologists.
It's Albany. Because I was asking him, he said it's Albany. Yeah.
Okay. Well, again.
I agree. It shouldn't take me longer to go through TSA from Orlando to New York than it does somebody to get into the United States.
Yes. Yeah.
It should, like I get
for all.
The Orlando TSA, you get jammed up at that airport.
It's terrible.
It's terrible.
It's terrible.
It shouldn't be easier to get in the country than it should be for me to take a flight in first class with TSA
clear, yeah.
And you know.
But guess what? Those people, you can say, you know, I'm asylum, whatever. I don't have a name, I don't have anything, but they're going to give you a ticket. You're paying $2,500 for that first class ticket from Orlando. So to me, that's my biggest issue.
I agree
with the country, because it isn't just the cost and the inconvenience and how they've allowed New York to be borderline ruined again. It is the overall security. And you know what? It's easy because my kids today, you know, by the grace of God, are safe. But there's a lot of families right now, especially who live in some of those states, who are seeing the crime increase terribly, and then horrible crimes. There's dead people, dead women, dead girls. And so this goes back to, okay, like mean tweets, all the things. All I know, and again, this is an Army kid where my dad was all about accountability. And as a kid, he was like, okay, that's your friend, fine. That kid's also been suspended and da-da-da-da. They have a track record. What's their track record? So with politicians, what's your track record? You have shown me what you're about.
The border czar. Kamala, the border czar.
Has she ever been to the border?
No.
Just saying. Like, I don't understand.
I'm not rocking with Kamala. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
But you're undecided as to whether or not you're going to actually vote.
Yes.
What do you think will help you make that decision?
My wife. My wife is hardcore. But
hardcore what?
She's just hardcore. She's hardcore.
I like her.
She don't have any she's not she would say she's recognized, like, what is she? You know, her political, she just, you know, hardcore.
Well, she educates herself.
She educates herself a lot too.
And then what about conversations with your kids? Because they're adults, right?
Yes.
24, 22?
They're listen, I just told you, like, you know, like, it was not too long ago where I could care less about politics. So like they're not at but
I think we all were there. Yeah.
Yeah, I try to give jewels and gems, but you also need to wanna. Otherwise, it's like white noise.
You know what's so cool? I think you'll like this story. When I was in '88, so I was a junior in high school-ish. And I remember having like a high school civics class and talking about the election and just went home to talk to my parents and just to, conversation about all the issues. I'm like, so who are you going to vote for? And they both looked at me and said, none of your business.
That's good too.
I loved that because I was like, what are you talking about? I'm just trying to like have an adult conversation. They're like, no. You go do your research and you tell us who you would vote for and why. I love that about them because they challenged me to go figure it out and figure out my why. And then I went to college, and college is a different kind of place. And it's always been very liberal, right? I went to I went to Big Ten, Indiana, but very, very left and liberal, and all my friends were. And people say, oh, well, you're a military kid, so you're more conservative. I'm like, it's nothing to do with that.
Right.
For me, I take issue by issue, and most people aren't gonna agree with every issue on the right or the left. It's almost like my dad would, am I gonna take a new job or whatever it is, he'd make us do like a pros and cons list, And so which column wins?
Right.
And that's kind of how you make the decision. And then but I do think, we're talking about it now and I'm putting you on the spot, but I do think it's private. And that way you can still have those friendships that aren't strained and just most importantly, be respectful of others' opinions, even if they aren't educated. Like,
I love talking to people I don't agree with.
Yeah.
I love when Trump was I love it. I think it's of the utmost importance to have conversations with people because I'm like, well, what do you like? What do you not? I think it's of the utmost importance.
It is important, and just to do it with grace and kindness and respect, because that's what's missing. But it's the C word, it's the conversation that most people don't want to have anymore.
But that thing you said about charts and like, sort of what do you like, what do you don't like, that's like, even that, like people, I think it's like so basic, but I don't think people even would know. They would just be like, I like this person because I like their personality. I like Kamala, she's a woman, she's black. Like like.
By the way, can you say, I like Trump because he's white? Like, then you're out of a job. Like, can you imagine that whole thing? And I like how they say, oh yeah, well, she's gonna get the black female vote. Oh, because we're a monolith and we can, if you have brown skin, then this is the only way you know to think.
Yeah.
Shut up.
I agree with that.
So that's racist.
Yeah, I know. I agree. And I agree, and people can be like, Sage Steele, red pill, Michael Rapaport.
No, but I think it's such an important conversation. And at the end of the day, people have assumed a lot of things about me.
I'm sure.
No one has asked me. There's a couple of issues now that are obvious. That's all out there, right? But at the end of the day, like I said a couple of things years ago, and they just assumed. Not one person asked me. And I'm like, that's not, because you don't want to know. You just want to put someone over here. Especially, by the way, an agent of mine told me this, the best agent I ever had. God love him. Nick Khan. He was at CAA. Now he's head of WWE. He's a brilliant soul attorney, like brilliant, and just believed in me, God, a long time before I ever believed in myself. And I was going through a crazy, crazy time when I was doing NBA Countdown with certain personalities who don't deserve to be mentioned with any of my energy. But I was newer and young, and it was a tough night in particular. And I called him, I was like, what do I do? And he talked me through it, and he goes, you know what? It's lonely at the top. I didn't know I was at the top. I guess in hindsight, it certainly was. And when you're hosting the premier NBA show, it didn't feel like it because of the lack of support, the lack of it, and it was terrible. But it's so true. And so when you've been at the top of your industry, and so when you do give an opinion, it's going to hit harder because you're at the top. There's a lot of people who want to be you, so therefore they're letting those bullets fly with you. And in a different way, on the little sports side for me, that's what it was too. And it's like, dude, you can believe that and throw all your arrows and everything. Have you ever asked me? And the answer is no. So once we get to that point where you're already there, it sounds like, where you're like, you know what? And that it takes wisdom, age, experience, being canceled, whatever. I'm finally to that point where I'm like, you don't know me and you're choosing to judge. And so once you're okay being disliked with comedy, I mean, you have no choice. I mean, and even acting, because it's such a subjective thing.
Yeah.
I'm finally okay not being liked and being stereotyped, even though half of what they say is actually wrong. But that's okay, right? Like doesn't that take a confidence?
100%.
And
a belief in yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean it's not painful.
No.
And everything you've chosen to do, comedy, acting, all of it.
Yeah.
Like, you're asking for it.
I am. I mean, you know, like I've always talked shit, and you know,
I love you for it though.
And I just try to just be honest. I just try to be honest, and you know, I don't feel like my voice is you know, I don't know, like, you know, I know like since October 7th, I know that a lot of people have reached out to me and say that they appreciate it. I just try to just be as honest as I possibly can, and
but you're helping. Like, all of your posts are beautiful and necessary and painful all at the same time, right? And I've said this about a couple of different things. I've said this about COVID. I've said this about 9/11 and about what happened on October 7th. That hashtag never forget, it matters. And I think it's the most appropriate, I mean, stupid hashtag, right? But to never forget. And by you having a voice and continuing to post about these people and their families, you're making sure people don't forget.
That's for sure.
You are doing God's work.
And that's an honor to me.
It is awesome because you've chosen to go there and to meet some of these people and to tell their story. They're not just names on a wall somewhere taped up on a poster. Have you seen this person? Like, you're showing videos of some of these people in their last moments or their it's very hard to watch and to look at, but so necessary. And so I'm grateful for what you're doing. And you didn't have to, but you're like, I'm sure these families are so grateful.
I mean, the thing, you know, the thing like about the social media and the sharing stuff from them, it's like if your son, grandfather, your daughter has been kidnapped, these are regular people. These aren't. So they're like, and I'm like, of course I would do anything. Don't even ask. You know.
I love it.
I mean, how could you not?
Yeah, but look, what do you mean?
I know,
look
I
all
know.
the people who are choosing to not say anything.
But it's just like, of course, you know, it's like, if somebody was still missing after 9/11, you'd be like, anything you need. Obviously, we found out that there was no missing, but it's like, of course. But somehow with this, it's like, no, you're missing. Well, rip the poster down. What?
Yeah.
The baby's missing.
I couldn't
rip the poster down.
Seen that video? I was
crazy to me. That shit was crazy, and that was crazy to me. And again, like in New York, it's like, in New York, that
all
ain't the
places.
You're ripping down posters of I don't care of missing babies.
Yeah,
that's like crazy to me. So.
You are the best. And by the way, like, all this energy, and I need to make this, I always forget the exact name, but yeah, I am Rapaport.
Yes.
Hard T, Rapaport podcast. Yes. What else are you doing now? You're still touring.
I'm on tour this fall, all over the country. Tickets are available at Michael Rapaport.
Do you still get that adrenaline? Do you still get,
always.
I love it.
You have to.
Yeah, or else like quit.
Yeah,
like an athlete.
You have to.
Yeah.
You know, like when you're doing something live, you always get a little buzz, right? A little, even if it's
still do.
It's not what you first get when you were like younger, but you still, if you don't get like a little then you have to quit. I don't eat. Right.
I don't eat leading up to any of it, even though I've been doing it for 30 years. Yeah, I think it's like that passion. It's because you care.
Yes.
And you have people who are spending money.
Yes.
To buy tickets.
Yes.
To come see
you always got to have that little elation.
MichaelRapaportComedy.com.
Yep.
And all over?
All over the country. All over.
Does your wife come? Do the
she
kids
comes
come?
Sometimes, you know, I mean, she comes sometimes. She doesn't really come to the shows because she's like, I've seen it, I've heard it. You know, but
you're not funny.
She comes, all of those. So she comes sometimes. You know, the worst part of it is traveling. Like, I don't like the traveling, the planes. I don't like getting no disrespect to the Orlando airport. I don't know what the problem is there. It's like Disney.
It's freaking Disney.
It's crazy there.
It's the worst.
But like even the TSAs.
Snotty kids, and I used to have those kids at Disney, and now I'm like, oh no, I'll walk home to Connecticut from there.
Yeah. So.
I'm so grateful that I got to witness you in your greatness.
Thank you.
A decade plus ago, before all the injuries.
Thank you.
And now you can...
The injuries took me out of the game.
Otherwise, you'd still be balling.
I might need my own 30 for 30.
Oh, good Lord. Listen, if the Knicks finally win again at some point, that means it will have been, it's 51 years now, Michael.
Disgusting.
Go Pacers. I'm kidding. I love you.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing
appreciate
this.
it.
God bless. Thank you.